I just got back from a 3-day trip to Houston, where I spoke at a conference about my testimony. While I was in Houston, I spoke English only at the conference, but for the rest of the time I only spoke Spanish and Japanese. I was in a hotel where all of the hotel workers spoke Spanish only, and a lot of the clients, like me, they were mostly American, and so they spoke English. And then you have obviously a disparity there, like between staff and clients. There was no way for them to interact. And then there was a Japanese couple that was at the hotel as well. So one morning, I was at the line for breakfast in the dining area, and they had a waffle maker. Well, they had 2 waffle makers. So I started making my waffle, and I noticed that the couple next to me, they were Asian, and one of them was sort of looking around, and he seemed pretty lost. And then I realized that they probably couldn't read the instructions for the stuff, for the waffle maker, because it was all in English. So I just made them a waffle. So I made my waffle, and while that was cooking, I set a waffle up for them, and I put the mix in there and stuff, and I got it cooking. And it finished about the same time as mine. So I grabbed mine, brought it to my table, and then I grabbed theirs and brought it to their table. And whenever I did, the guy looked really forlorn, but the woman was really, I could tell that she knew that I was trying to be kind. But I think he was sort of like, what's going on here? So I gave them the waffle, and I went back to my table and just left it at that. So then, once I sat down, I heard from the other side of the dining area, I heard, the guy was like, arigato, and I said, do itashimashite. And whenever I responded, immediately, the lady was like, and they both were really surprised. I was the only white guy in the dining area, so I'd be the very last person they would expect to speak any Japanese, or even to know that they were speaking Japanese and then know to respond in Japanese, because I speak many languages. So they were super surprised that I spoke Japanese. They came over to my table, asked to take a picture. That's here. And then after we took a picture, the guy gave me his phone number, and we texted a little bit, and they sat with me for a minute and we chatted. We mostly use a translator, honestly, because my Japanese is not that good. And I learned Japanese a little bit when I was in high school. So that was 4,000 years ago. So I've never had to use my Japanese ever, not even one time. So we took a cute little picture and then moved on with our day, and then they left the next morning, which was okay. But then the rest of the time, I spoke Spanish all throughout the day and night at the hotel, because everybody that works there, they all only spoke Spanish, which was pretty cool. But it made me realize that maybe those of you, let's say I'm talking to Americans, so those of you that are in America, your voting is your own business, right? But those of you that voted because you want foreign people to be put in their place, because you think that they're not deserving of an opportunity. I'm not talking about because you have a sense of law and ethics, and that's where you're coming from. But if you think that somebody, because they're from somewhere else, is less deserving of freedom and help than you are because of their color or something, or because of the language they speak, maybe it's because you have never spoken to them. But I have spoken to them, and I speak to them all the time. I speak 8 languages, and I speak to foreign people all the time, and I realize that they're only foreign when they're here. When they're home, they're just people. When they're here, they should just be people too. They should just be people. They should be fellow creations, that the same God that created you created them. We should be kind to them and helpful, and respect and invite our neighbors as friends. That's what we should do. That's in the Bible. I mean, why should we call ourselves Christians and be hateful to foreigners and be hateful to people that are coming here for an opportunity for the same thing that we already have and take for granted? And most of us, like myself, I don't even want a lot of what we have. I mean, it's why are you so entitled? Just because you were born here, that you deserve so much more than anybody else? Yes, I see your point about doing things legally, but are you trying to talk to them? Are you making the endeavor to understand them? Do you look them in the eyes and see the vulnerability and the fear and the shame? Do you see how they cast their eyes down and walk around with their heads down and try to stay in the shadows and stay hidden? Have you thought of what it might be like to be dropped somewhere, or to go somewhere where you can't get around and nobody knows what you're saying and you don't know what they're saying, and you can't ask for help because they might actually hurt you? Have you ever thought about what that would feel like? Because I just limped around for 3 days in a foreign place I've never been to, where nobody spoke my actual born language, and I needed help with basically everything, it seemed like, and I felt like I was a failure half the time. And so I had to humble myself and ask for help, and in different languages. I had to have somebody at the hotel open a popsicle for me because my left hand doesn't function the way it should. I have been in that place where I have limped around and looked pathetic and had to ask for help, and I can't even imagine it, being in a place where I've never been and nobody speaks my language at all, and I don't have any way to communicate. Have you thought about that? And have you thought about meeting that person with love and respect and dignity, and maybe praying for them instead of judging them like a dirty pauper that came here to get something that you want, and if they get anything, you're not going to have it? Are you thinking like that, or are you trying to welcome them as friends? Are you operating in the spirit of Jesus, or the opposite? Because it's one or the other. You're either of the world or you're of Jesus. And if you're not greeting people with love, that's not of Jesus. I don't know what to tell you.